One of the most urgent tasks for our country is to decisively defeat the climate hysteria hoax.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction.
The ability of CO2 to do the heavy work of creating a climate catastrophe is almost nil at this point.
The price of oil has been artificially elevated to the point of insanity.
That's not how you power a modern industrial system.
The ultimate goal of this renewable energy, plan is to reach the exact same point that we're at now.
You know who's tried that? Germany. 7 straight days of no wind for Germany. Their factories are shutting down.
They really do act like weather didn't happen prior to 1910.
Today is Friday.
That's right, Greta. It is Friday, and this is the best day of the week. Not just because the weekend is almost here, but because this is the day the Heartland Institute broadcasts the Climate Realism Show. My name is Jim Lakely. I'm your host and the Executive Vice President of the Heartland Institute. We are an organization that has been around for 42 years. We are known as the leading global think tank, pushing back on climate alarmism. Heartland and this show bring you the data, the science, the truth that counters the climate alarmist narrative you've been fed every single day of your life. There is nothing else quite like the Climate Realism Show streaming anywhere. So I hope you will bring friends to view this live stream every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And also like, share, and subscribe. And be sure to leave your comments underneath this video. These actions all help YouTube's very mysterious algorithm to smile upon this program. And that gets the show in front of even more people. And as a reminder, because big tech and the legacy media are not big fans of the way we cover climate and energy policy on this program, Heartland's YouTube channel has been demonetized. So if you want to support this program, and I really hope you do, please visit heartland.org/TCRS. That's heartland.org/TCRS. And you can join other friends of this program from around the world who help bring it to everyone every single week. And we also want to thank our streaming partners who help build our audience. That's junkscience.com, CFACT, What's Up With That, the CO2 Coalition, and our friends at Heartland UK Europe. We got a big show today, so let's get started. We have with us, as usual, Anthony Watts, Senior Fellow at the Heartland Institute and publisher of the world's most viewed website on climate change, What's Up With That? We have Sterling Burnett, the Archbishop of Canterbury, whose day job is the director of the Arthur B. Robinson Center on Climate and Environmental Policy at the Heartland Institute. Linnea Lukin, Senior Fellow for Energy and Environment Policy at Heartland, and our producer, Andy Singer, making sure it all runs so smoothly behind the scenes. And joining us once again, we're so happy she's here, Lois Perry. She's the director of Heartland UK Europe, who celebrated the opening of Heartland Central Europe in Poland with our President James Taylor just this week. We will have a lot more to say about that later, but it was a pretty thrilling election on May 7th for you, Lois. Huge and historic gains for Reform UK. Have you stopped smiling?
No. My muscles are actually hurting in my face. These were the equivalent of our Nigel and I were seeing this as the equivalent of our midterms in the United Kingdom. So it's just a great result. I mean, we did absolutely fantastically. We got over 1,200 seats. It was a wipeout of Labour. The Conservative vote collapsed. Even the Greens, everyone was saying, "Oh, the Greens didn't do that well at all." Not really. Yeah. But yeah, no, I haven't stopped smiling. But by the way, thank you for having me on.
Always our pleasure, Lois. And we're going to get into that a little bit more deeply here in the main topic section of today's show. But we will start, as we always do, with the crazy climate news of the week. Hit it, Andy. Thank you very much, Bill Nye. All right, I've titled this first item, Manly Men Harm the Climate. And this comes from none other than What's Up With That, the great website. Headline is Masculine Behavior Bad for the Planet, says phys.org. We read the paper. This, again, as often happens, comes to us from our friend Charles Rotter, who's often here with us, contributor to What's Up With That. Let me read from it for everyone. Last Tuesday, phys.org, a science aggregator widely picked up by mainstream outlets, ran a piece under the headline, Masculine behavior bad for the planet, says new research. The press release opens by announcing that, quote, major new research on climate change, global warming, and environmental collapse, how they connect with what men do and what to do about it, has just been published, unquote. A reader could be forgiven for assuming that some new study had measured something, found something, and produced a finding. That is not what happened, writes Charles Rotter. The research in question is an editorial introduction to a double special issue of Norma, International Journal for Masculinity Studies. It introduces 22 papers across 2 issues with titles ranging from analyses of, quote, pro-meat online influencers in Finland, unquote, to discussions of pipeline politics in Canada. The editorial's organizing concept is Manthropocene. The Anthropocene with a male prefix bolted on the front to signal who, in the author's view, is responsible. Now, again, Charles read this so that we don't have to, and here he says is what's actually going on. The editorial's argument is structured around a few moves the reader should be able to recognize. The first move is to observe that men, on average, have higher carbon footprints than women, driven principally by transportation, tourism, and meat consumption. This is true and unremarkable. The second move is to observe that men dominate the leadership and ownership of extractive and energy-intensive industries. This is also true. The editorial offers no mechanism by which masculinity itself causes fossil fuel use, as opposed to causing men to disproportionately end up in jobs that involve producing the energy modern life depends upon. The correlation is treated as a moral indictment without the causal step of being argued. The third move is the one that does most of the work, and it's worth quoting directly. Quote, climate denialism often combines with misogyny, unquote. This is the rhetorical heart of the entire project. It converts substantive disagreement with the consensus framing into a personality defect, a gender pathology. All right. I want to start with you, Linnea. You're a climate realist. You've worked on offshore oil rigs. And you're also a woman. Are you also somehow also a misogynist?
I guess. I think they call it internalized misogyny. No. This is just silly. It's as bad as climate science is, sociological sciences are probably even worse when it comes to not being able to be replicated and also just like making stuff up based on what's popular in the culture. So yeah. I would not give anything like this much credence whatsoever. And what's their solution then? I guess their solution would be like deconstructing masculinity or whatever, or just like, I don't know, genocide. Those are kind of the only 2 options they have if that's the driving issue, right? So I guess it's up to them to say what they would prefer.
I would suggest a third solution, that all men join women in drum circles and talk about our defects and praise women and basically just say whatever they say. I mean, which is what I do with my wife. Whatever you say is true, honey. The fact, God, I can't believe I have to say this. You would only have to say this in the 21st or latter 20th century. I cannot believe there's a legitimate academic journal on masculinity studies. It's just like when I was in school and there were entire programs devoted to pop culture. Do we really need academic studies on comic books? And then when they get out when they graduate, they can't find jobs and they blame the culture for not finding their deconstruction of Superman as worthwhile, qualifying them to work. It's appalling to me. I'd like to think a fairly masculine man. I actually hunt. I may be the only one on here that does. No. Linnea hunts. So wrong. About 15%, falling from 50% of my meat consumption is game meat, because it fell because I'm running out of game meat. So I contribute less to factory farming than most people, probably most women. And I work from home, so I don't drive that much. But evidently I'm part of the problem.
Well, this study, if you, I mean, I don't really want to even call it that, but it is assuming that no female businesses or female activity uses energy, that they don't ever have to switch on a light switch or jump in a car or do anything at all. Do you know what this is? This is a woke orgasm of different narratives stuck together, isn't it? They can have a go at men. They can talk about climate change. They can talk about consumption and actually another woke orgasm is effectively anti-capitalist as well, isn't it? Like all of this stuff is ultimately. So yeah, someone had a really, really, really exciting night in writing this, I think, in terms of what turns them on. It certainly doesn't turn any of us on, this nonsense, does it?
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
That's exactly right. You know, I also suspect, remember, fossil fuels are endemic to plastics. Now, I do some shopping, but my wife does most of the shopping, and she comes home.
Nope. Sterling has frozen again. He's got that wind-powered internet. That's such a problem. Anthony, you want to weigh in here?
You know, this article is just, the content is just, you know, I got nothing.
Well, I mean, I will just note, I mean, there might be some truth to this. I can't recall ever seeing somebody who is in a constant panic about the climate and is a male human being very masculine in his outward projection.
No, that's true.
So there might be a little truth to this. I don't know.
I would
maybe
bet.
we should all sing that theme from 2.5 Men, you know, men, manly men.
I would bet if you were to take a study of, you know, what stores and stuff men shop at versus what stores women shop at, I think you would come out to find that the shops that women tend to frequent will probably have a higher overall carbon dioxide, you know, footprint than the men's. I don't think men are shopping at like Home Goods and World Market and stuff that I almost guarantee have a higher footprint than, like, I don't know, Lowe's.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, Amazon it was a godsend to guys who don't like to go out and shop, you know. Just do it at home.
Yeah.
You be lazy.
Yeah, I got all my clothes from Amazon and Costco.
Wow, you're a trendsetter across the pond.
Lois is trying to hide her horror at that statement.
Yeah, I'm now wondering why Anthony's never showed up on the catwalks in France.
Wonder no more.
All right,
I'm not a
it sounds very practical.
Sold at Costco.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to our second item here. This is not quite as funny, although it is absurd. And I've titled it Elderly Abuse in Denmark. And this comes to us from the New York Post. EU country punishing the elderly with crazy meat restriction of just 2.8 ounces per day because they screwed up the climate. Now, this is just sad, and this is just cruel. Let me read it all out for you. An eco-warrior politician has sparked outrage in Denmark after she defended guidelines limiting residents of government-run nursing homes to just 2.8 ounces of beef a week, which is less than what is found in one Big Mac. Brigitte Kaler-Holst of the left-wing Green Danish party called The Alternative was also accused of saying old people in nursing homes should be punished by restricting their meat intake in comments made in a meeting of Copenhagen City Council on April 30th. She was speaking against plans to exclude nursing home residents from guidelines in the Danish capital that restrict meals at government-run sites to just 2.8 ounces, which is 80 grams, of beef, lamb, or veal per week. That is less than the amount of beef in the standard McDonald's Big Mac, which contains 1.6 ounce beef patties for a total of 3.2 ounces. So, I don't know if you could put this up. If you should scroll, there's a picture of her there, Andy. She looks like a lot of fun, that one.
Lois, you could help the world a lot if you would teach some of these eco warriors a little bit of glam.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I think we only tend to have glam on the right side of the argument, don't we? I think on that side, one of the reasons they are so miserable is because they look in the mirror every morning and look at that.
Right. You know how in nature there's frogs that are colored a certain way for danger. I think that works for humans too sometimes.
Yeah,
All right.
I think so.
let me read some more from here. There's some important details here. Quote, everyone, including the elderly, must contribute to achieving our climate goals, Holst said at the city council meeting, adding, quote, it is precisely the generation that has screwed up the most, unquote. One politician shared a picture of the daily beef ration in his hand to show just how little it was. Malte Larsen of the right-wing populist Danish People's Party said, quote, according to a politician from the alternative, it's because our elderly have been the biggest climate sinners throughout their lives and therefore must be punished. Now, Holst subsequently apologized for speaking rashly, although she doubled down on her insistence that people eat less meat. Quote, I made a slightly too hasty comment from the podium, and I'm sorry about that, she said, but I find it fundamentally unproblematic that our elderly citizens, like the rest of Copenhageners, are served healthy, tasty, and organic food that follows the Danish dietary guidelines. Now, Sterling, I want to start with you. You have a quickly emptying freezer full of wild game. With the way the leftist governments and politicians outside the U.S. view the elderly, I suppose we should be grateful that the alternative party in Denmark just doesn't want to advocate unaliving these useless old breathers and eaters.
Yeah,
unaliving.
I constantly hear, almost daily, I hear someone mouth off about Trump being a fascist, or that we live in, that we now live in a fascist state, or authoritarian state. And then I look across the pond and I see in Denmark, or where was it last week? They're going to ban billboards that talk about meat. Here, they want to ban the elderly from having meat. By the way, the elderly who suffer more than most from iron deficiency, and protein from meat helps with iron. You don't need, if you eat enough meat, you don't need supplements. The natural supplement, meat, it makes me think, gosh, it's not America that's facing authoritarianism. It's, the police state exists, and it's in Denmark. It's in Scandinavia, historically among the freest, the most open to free speech and migration and lifestyles in any area in Europe. And this is what we get. Now, I don't know from that article, I'm the one that sent the article in, but I don't recall whether the ban, the limits were actually passed into law, or she just proposed it. But the idea that you should be able to restrict the elderly from having meat, and then blaming them because you're blaming them for past climate sins. The elderly are also the ones that created the wealth in that country. It's not the young people that are creating the wealth. It's the elderly whose wealth has accumulated and put this woman in her position. It's crazy.
It's what it's going to do. It's going to create a black market beef industry, right? There's going to be people smuggling in sandwiches, into these nursing homes for people. Roast beef sandwiches. I can just see them, baked into cakes or something.
Maybe I should
plan or hidden inside of a book.
Yeah, maybe I should plan on traveling to Denmark once a month with one of those Mac trench coats with sort of slabs of prime rib hanging from hooks in it, and I can just say, "Hey."
But the most appropriate thing, Charles Rotter, when he posted it on What's Up With That, he had that classic line from the Wendy's commercial with these three old ladies. Where's the beef?
Yeah, exactly.
It was perfect. It was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be old people in nursing homes will be trading roast beef sandwiches like currency, like convicts do in prison with cigarettes. It's pretty sad.
But I pity the fool.
Right.
Yeah. But Jim, can I just make the point, just a serious point, following on from what you said? You said that this is actually, we should be glad this is quite mild, compared to unaliving people. I mean, in the UK, this assisted suicide bill, I mean, it's absolutely terrifying because elderly people can be pressured to have an assisted suicide, but just because they're a burden, or not even if there's anything particularly wrong with them, just that they're elderly. So this is very, very scary, but it reminds me of one of the most sinister bits of the book, because my daughter read it again recently, so I was helping her with it. In the book 1984, obviously George Orwell book, that one of the most sinister things is when they discover that when the other animals discover that the area that had been allocated for the elderly working horses to live out the rest of their days after they've retired had been made into other buildings and concreted over. And that's when they realized that there wasn't a retirement, that old people were not valued in this system, and the pigs, the communists, were killing the elderly. And we're seeing it. We are seeing it in England, and now in Denmark. It's just disgusting, absolutely disgusting, and scary, really scary. My nan doesn't want to go into hospital now. She doesn't want to go into hospital, full stop. She's terrified. They've totally, elderly people and the disabled in this country, because of what happened with COVID, have completely lost, terrified of going into hospital. They think they're going to be killed.
Yeah, it's like that in Canada too, with the MAID program up there. They've been pushing people to choose death instead of life for some really sketchy reasons.
I wonder if this lady, I wonder how she would feel about Soylent Green. That would solve two problems at once, right? You unlive the people and you provide a protein source.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, one terrifying thing going on from the Canada thing you just said. There was a Canadian Paralympian, like an athlete, but she was disabled, obviously, and she made an application for a ramp outside her home for assistance from the government for the ramp. And she's Canadian, and they said no, but they did offer her assisted suicide instead.
Oh my God!
Yeah. We talk. Soylent Green comes up on this podcast a lot way more often than it really should. So,
look on the bright side. These elderly folks under this new guideline, they can eat all the crickets they want.
That's true. All you can eat crickets.
And I just pointing out, not only were crickets not on the list, neither was Soylent Green. That's not banned.
Yep, and you can have a beef that would fit on your thumb. So
long fork.
All right, let's go. This is a little bit lighter fare, I hope. This is example number 4,312 of Hollywood is Hopeless. This comes from Breitbart. Climate doomer Adam McKay mocks LA residents who thought Palisades fire was started by an arsonist. Now, Adam McKay, in case you've never heard of him, he's a writer and producer and director behind such great comedies as Anchorman, Talladega Nights, and then other movies like The Big Short, Vice, Ant-Man, and the show Succession, which was on HBO, which was I thought was very good. He also did the film titled Don't Look Up. That was a climate alarmist movie that was a bomb a couple of years ago, lost tons of money. Anyway, Adam McKay used to be funny and made good films, and now he's just an unhinged climate fanatic. He has donated millions of his personal fortune to Just Stop Oil, the Climate Emergency Fund, and Climate Defiance. So, the kinds of people that glue themselves to tarmacs and throw soup at priceless pieces of art, which is a strange thing, I think, for an artist himself to do. But, you'd be you. Can we just play that clip, Andy? It kind of speaks for itself.
The fact that we've broken the livable climate, I mean, it's like Greek myth stuff. So it's a little more grounded in that. The intention of the film is that, the oil companies have been wildly successful blacking out the news, communication, buying up our supposed representatives. So I saw it with the LA fires. At the end of them, 80% of the people I knew still thought they were caused by arsonists, the power company, whatever. So they've done a really great job, the oil companies, of misleading people.
All right, let me just state for the facts before we throw this out to the panel here. Prosecutors say that Jonathan Rinderneck, we covered this story before, he's accused of setting the Palisades fire. And then the prosecutors say he was motivated by personal anger, resentment toward wealthy people and capitalism, and admiration for Luigi Mangione. In other words, Jonathan Rinderneck is part of the same radical left-wing ecosystem that McKay has been supporting with millions upon millions of his own money. So, Anthony, let me start with you, if I could. Andy McKay comes from La La Land, the land of make-believe, and now he's making believe that an arsonist didn't cause this fire, that somehow, I guess, climate change did.
This is a prime example of CDS, climate derangement syndrome. These folks will believe anything except what is factual. They just don't seem to have a clue when it comes to to absorbing information that is counter to their viewpoint. They get this viewpoint, humans are bad, big oil is bad, people that question climate science are evil, climate science is pure and pristine and all this stuff. They get this in their heads. And then when you present them with real certifiable facts, i.e., this guy started the fire, he admitted to it. No, that can't be it. It's got to be big oil. They influenced him. They made him do it. I mean, what a whack job.
No, and piling on, it is an arsonist that started a fire. The fire department showed up, largely put it out, but stuff was still smoldering. State environmental officials got in and said, no, you can't keep spraying water there. You gotta stop. We're worried about some environmental concerns. It'll smolder and go out by itself. Then there wasn't enough water. The mayor is on vacation somewhere and can't be bothered to come home. And then it flares up because the fire department wasn't allowed to do its job, and he's going to blame oil. And in that clip that Jim's, he started with I think he said something about we've destroyed the earth or something. And I look around and I say, in what sense? We have trees. Yes. We have lizards. We have squirrels. In my house, we got lots of squirrels. We've got people, small children, people living longer than ever, crops growing more than ever. I look around and I don't see a destroyed earth. I'll admit, I see a changed earth. We don't live in North Korea where there's no light at night and where people maybe really have to eat bugs. It's not a matter of the elite choice. It's they've got to eat whatever they can scrabble and have. I don't see that as a destroyed earth. I see it as an earth that's different from 1 million years ago, 12,000 years ago, 200 years ago. But who is he to decide for society that one of those other time periods, that was a better earth than what we have now?
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
Oh, no, just as a quick aside, something came across my feed that I guess DSmog, our good friends over at DSmog, are having some kind of a Q&A meetup or something about the climate crisis and masculinity. So just to know that they're having they're really on top of this subject that we talked about today.
Well, I hope
DSmog have been absolutely obsessed with us in the Heartland UK. I mean, obsessed. We must have had an article at least every couple of months. They did a big spidergram of us and our links with their photographs of Heartland and me and Trump and Nigel with all links to all these different things. It was brilliant. My ex-husband had it made into a T-shirt for me as part of my Christmas presents under the tree. I'll wear it next time I come on. I'll wear it. I'll wear it.
Very good. Very, very good. Yeah, I mean, the Adam McKay is donated one of the climate resistance when we had our a brief interruption during the Bringing Youth to Climate Realism panel at the 16th International Conference on Climate Change. It was Climate Resistance, I believe, was the organization that came in there and disrupted for just a brief amount of time. But it's Just Stop Oil, I believe. Isn't that based in the UK, Lois?
Yeah, well, I mean, so I managed to get Just Stop Oil to say that they would not be on any television program with Lois Perry in attendance, because they had somebody on with me, and I think it's fair to say it was on GB News that I sort of won the argument, because I was pointing out that their biggest funders were people that were currently making money in the oil and gas industry and had historically made money in the oil and gas industry as well. And I pointed out that maybe the reason they didn't want any new oil contracts or exploration contracts was so they could keep their price of their product high. And the guy didn't know what to say. And so after then, there was an edict that went across the whole of Just Stop Oil that they weren't allowed to appear on any panels with me. So yeah, there you go. I think that's quite an accolade.
Just Stop Oil, the Southern Poverty Law Center of England.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get in. We tend to spin into this area quite a bit on this show sometimes, but there really needs to be an in-depth, in-depth investigative journalism about where all of these left-wing groups get their money. They're actually paid by people to pretend that organizations like the Heartland Institute are swimming in oil money, and it's not true. Never been true. And so yeah, it's absurd. But the important part is when you actually listen to the arguments, there's one side that has facts on their side and one side that has emotional appeals on the other. And I'll take logic and facts every day. All right. Well, let's get to our main topic today, which we're gonna have Lois on once a month regardless. But this was such a good time to have her on that it's just perfect. So I've titled this one Britain dumps the Greens, and there's a link there in the Guardian, Andy, that you could bring up or not. It's not super important, but obviously it was a earthquake of an election in Great Britain on May 7th, I believe was election day. According to the Guardian, according to Grok on AI, I asked it, so what happened, right? How many seats did each party gain or lose going forward? So let me just run this down. This is going to be close enough in accuracy, I believe. And so these were, as Lois said earlier, these were midterm. These are the equivalent of midterm elections here in the United States. These were local representative races, and you vote pretty much by party. Reform UK won about 1,500 seats. Labour lost nearly 1,500 seats, and in fact now holds only a little over 1,000 seats, which is less than Reform, Reform UK, so now Reform UK is the #1 party on local elections, which is really remarkable considering this was, I think, Lois can correct me if I'm wrong, the first real full national local election that Reform UK has ever actually been able to participate in. The Liberal Democrats, they won about. Oh, you can correct me at the end of it, but I'm almost done. Liberal Democrats won 150 or so seats, and they have about 850 or so total. Conservatives, the Tories, they lost 563 seats, and they are now at 801 seats, which is less than the Liberal Democrats, let alone Reform UK. The Greens, they won 441 seats. They're now at 587. So just a little bit. And Independents, holding around 200, 250, 300, but really no real super gains for them. And also, Reform UK, for the first time, because they did not control any councils, now control 14 councils in the UK. Labour lost control of 38 councils, and the Greens gained 5. So, Lois, can you tell me if Grok's AI is accurate or not?
Yeah, no, that all sounds pretty accurate to me. It was an extraordinary election, and of course, the only reason that it was a full well, almost completely full national council elections was because of the Reform Party and Nigel Farage. Because what happened is that the Tories and Labour colluded to cancel elections in places where they felt that Reform would have a landslide, and actually it was a massive scandal. And because of Nigel Farage personally taking the government to court, millions of people, I think it's about 4 million voters were able to cast their vote, and they voted for Reform. And all the councils that were trying to cancel their elections went Reform almost entirely. So that was the reason that they wanted to stop people having democracy. Nigel was out almost every night for weeks doing rallies in different parts of the country, and I mean full big rallies every night, all that energy, all that freshness. He must have been exhausted all over the country. There was a massive national push with all our volunteers and our members. I've never seen so much passion. I went to different parts of the country. I did a bit of door knocking. I did some door knocking on the night of the election to get people out to vote. And then I went to the count on that night, and then another count on the other night. And it was just really, really, really exciting. And if on the basis of the vote, if it was in a general election, not only would 5 current cabinet members lose their seats, but also the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, would also lose her seat as well. So, and if, as I say, if the vote was replicated in a general election, Nigel Farage would be Prime Minister and the Reform Party will win. And don't forget, because of us, because of Heartland Institute, day one, all net zero policies, targets, subsidies will be scrapped. So let's hope that this all carries on. I certainly think it will.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we brought it up as a main topic today, is because I know immigration was a big issue in the campaign, but it was really what you've been hammering on now for years with us at Heartland UK Europe, is what a disaster net zero is for the people, especially quote unquote ordinary people in Great Britain. It's economically ruinous. It steals your freedom. It's not justified by the science. And you have been pounding that issue over and over and over in the UK media, and certainly it had an effect on this election for sure, right? Oops, Lois has frozen. Oh, can you hear us? Can you hear us, Lois? Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about what she's lost.
They're hacking her. They're hacking her.
Look at that. She's getting sabotaged by people.
Blocked by the left.
Yeah. But maybe she can go out and come back, and we can bring her back in. But for me, my favorite election night viewing, and sometimes I go back and watch highlights just because it's so much fun, was the 2016 election, and seeing the long faces on all the people on CNN and MSNBC, and they're shocked. But it's actually early in the beginning, they're very confident that everything's going to work out great and Hillary's going to be our next president. And then it just hour after hour goes by and their faces get longer and it's terrible. I won't say that watching the results come in from the UK was my second favorite election night, but it was quite remarkable to see, usually pretty sober and analysts on the BBC of all places that are definitely pro-Labor have to admit that this was a historic election. It was a complete shellacking of Labor, and I was thinking at the time watching it, of the globalist green agenda got absolutely slaughtered in that election. And I think that sends a message, not just to Great Britain and not just Europe, but the United States. What do you guys think?
Well, I would say I enjoy watching those highlights too. I mean, I'll never forget Trump coming down the elevator, or the escalator, with Melania. And, it was just like all of a sudden, all of the oppression that we had been fed got lifted with that one thing. And I'm sure that a lot of people in Britain feel the same way about it with these elections. They've thrown off their oppressors. And no, we're not going to eat 2.8 ounces of beef per week because you say so. No, we're not going to stop driving our cars. No, we're not going to eat gruel instead of, healthy food or whatever. They're just throwing off these oppressors, And Lois, welcome back.
Can you hear us, Lois?
No, I can't hear you.
Oh, can't hear us. Okay, we'll try to get that worked out.
I was gonna say, what's really amazing to me is, so reform at the local level has more seats than the 100, 200-year-old, maybe older Liberal Party. It has more seats than the probably even older Tory Party, and it's 5-7 years of existence. It came about, I think, as an official party maybe after Brexit. So yeah, whenever Brexit was. So in that short period of time, it's come to dominate the nation's politics. That's pretty amazing. That's like when America went from what was it?
The Whigs.
The Whigs, yeah. To suddenly we had a party called the Republicans, and it was viable. So it's a pretty amazing turnaround, and a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it is due to Reform's stance on energy.
Yep.
On the need, the fundamental need for Britons to have power in their homes, to be able to keep the lights on, to be able to heat their homes during the winter, to be able to travel where they want to, when they want to, and to end these climate restrictions that serve no good purpose for the world and especially for Britain itself. That's a fundamental part of Reform's appeal. And it's amazing how labor, as far as I can tell, just isn't getting it. I wish Lois was on, because I wanted to ask her something about that.
Well, we're trying to get her back. I'm looking down right now because I'm texting her in WhatsApp to say, Taylor, keep trying.
Just today I read stories that says Miliband, Starmer's environment man, is trying to get a law passed through Parliament that has a chance of getting passed that would make it almost impossible to do more North Sea oil or gas drilling, that would ban fracking. It's amazing to me.
Yeah. Can you hear us, Lois? Nope, she froze too. That's not good. Well, yeah, I mean, the remarkable thing is how, the anti-net zero messaging in Reform UK, from my understanding, kind of came about really at nearly the same time. And it was a big pillar of the agenda for Reform UK. And I know a parliamentary system like they have in Canada and in Great Britain is very different from, what is devolved, I guess, into a two-party system. Actually, it evolved pretty quickly into a two-party system here in the United States because of federalism, the way we run our elections. But it is quite remarkable that Reform UK is now, and its agenda of getting rid of net zero, is now the majority party proven in the local elections. And it didn't exist 5 years ago. And it didn't even run a full national election the last time there was an opportunity, because they weren't ready to do it yet. It's really quite remarkable. It's, again, I really hope that somebody in the comments here just mentioned that Starmer's still there and Miliband is still there. There was talk that Starmer was going to have to resign as prime minister. That there should be a vote of no confidence in him. He wants to run out his term. We will see how that happens. But the people have spoken, and the green agenda is dying in all the places where it was really not just ascendant, but in power. It grasped power in countries all over Europe, including the UK. You're seeing the backlash against the green agenda happen not just in the UK, but also in Germany, and other countries in Western Europe. So, and of course, here in the United States. I mean, there was a story just in the New York Times, I think it was the New York Times a couple of weeks ago, and I've heard Democrat consultants say this: don't talk about climate. That's not going to win for us. We can't talk about climate anymore. It's a loser. That makes me smile.
Yeah, that was a really amazing op-ed that they put in there. It was it was just something you thought you would never see that they would do. But they're coming to grips with the fact that it is a losing proposition, mainly because everything associated with climate is denying some kind of personal freedom or personal joy. That seems to be the center of the way that these folks operate. They want to deny you something so that you can save the planet. That's been the whole pitch, and it just doesn't fly.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Linnea. Sorry.
Oh no, I didn't have too much to add there. It's the same old stuff that we've been dealing with forever. I feel very badly for the UK and Europe in general, because the people don't seem to really want any of this, and they seem, there are some of them who are kind of coping, and they say, well, this is good for, having no electricity is fine in the, it's bad in the short term, but it'll be good in the long term because we're saving the world from climate change, or because, well, our government is benevolent and they know what they're doing. So I'm just going to trust the process here. There's no reason to trust the process here. They're not benevolent and they don't know what they're doing. So, but other than those people, a lot of people are not in favor of what's going on. They vote differently. They vote and they say no to these green policies, and then their governments just overrule it and they say, well, we're doing it anyway. Just very disappointing stuff. I especially feel bad. I know we have some viewers from the Netherlands. Netherlands has completely lost the plot. They are going full bore ahead with the green stuff, no matter what it does to their citizenry, no matter what it does to their farming and agriculture sector. They just don't seem to care one whit about how it hurts people.
Yeah. I mean, I want to, going off something Anthony just said, it just reminded me that, I often call it, we all do, the climate cult, and that there's a lot of religious, there's a lot of characteristics of religion in the climate left. One of the virtues of, say, Christianity is that if you can make sacrifices, you can be good, you can not sin, you can pray, and the reward is there for you at the end. You go to heaven. Or if you're Catholic, maybe you'll get absolution for your sins, but there's a process and there's a good part to it. The climate religion, it's all punishment, all sacrifice, and no reward. It's all sin and no forgiveness. And it's pretty hard to sustain that as a global movement for much longer, I think.
Yeah, the reward for the climate movement is death and composting, being composted. That's what you have to look forward to. I just thought about, I was puzzled as to why they would move forward with these really atrocious energy plans that are going to harm the nation, despite the drubbing they got in the elections. And I came to two conclusions. It's either Labor's last gasp, trying to get this stuff done before they're out, or since it's Miliband that's pushing it, he wants Starmer out and he wants to take Starmer's place. And so he thinks if he proposes something bad enough in the light of the elections, Starmer will have to leave, and then he'll rise up and say, yeah, we can't do that. Elect me and we'll have saner policies. I don't know which or if either of those is true, but it's inexplicable to me.
All right. Attempt number 17. Lois, can you hear us?
I'm so sorry about this. I'm so sorry about this. Shall we go all conspiracy theory? Shall we say that we think that I've been hacked? I mean, I am being hacked, but shall we say that they were trying to get me to stop about the talking about the elections, or is that too far down the rabbit hole? I don't know.
No, we proposed that as soon as you were off. We assumed that that's what was going on.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. It was clearly the deep state. They don't want me doing the things. So what can I do? Apologies to all the viewers. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's fine. No, these things happen. It's not a big deal. So actually, I wanted to ask you. You said that you were, canvassing, in many places across the country and talking to people. Maybe you can. What was the messaging about net zero that you and others with Reform UK were communicating, and what kind of feedback did you get from regular voters there in Great Britain?
Well, for the first time, we did notice it at the by-election actually recently, but again on the doorstep, people think they say net zero. They use a very English term. I don't know if you say this, a load of old bollocks, probably the same as balls, yeah, or whatever. But people don't believe it. And the most important thing, Jim, is that people are not frightened now of saying that they don't believe it. They're empowered. They've been empowered by the work that we've all done. You guys in America and me working with you guys here. So yeah, people think that it's a scam. They think that it's ridiculous. They now realize that even the ones that believe that there is some kind of climate change and it is connected to CO2, of which I didn't meet many actually, they think that the whole thing is ridiculous because obviously we're just exporting our emissions to China and other countries. So that message has been well and truly got out there. The fact that the Reform government are going to abolish all net zero policies, and because the Tories copy everything that Nigel and Reform does, the Tories, it's now the Tory policy as well. The message is out there. We got it out there, Jim. We've done it, I think. Yeah.
And I had a question for you before you fell off about the elections. So the elections, a huge drubbing for every other party, but Reform. Reform is on the right side of climate and on the right side of energy production for England and the need for energy. And yet Starmer's at risk of losing office. And yet Miliband has now proposed making it almost impossible to drill the North Sea for oil or gas and to ban fracking permanently. How can they move forward with that when that's exactly the kinds of policies that were rejected overwhelmingly in this election?
Yeah, well, it's, as I say, it's very interesting. They seem to be acting like you know, when you have governments, or you know when a company loses a big contract, but they've got a year wind down period, yeah, and they either try and get as much money out of the company as possible, or they just do the worst service ever. And that is the feeling at the moment, that they know they're going to go. They've got their mates, they've got their subsidies, they've got their back payments, they've got all their nonsense that they need to try and get through for their globalist masters, well, their Beijing masters. And so you get the feeling that they don't care how unpopular it is, because they think that they're not going to be there anyway. But I mean, you are dealing with a government that thinks it's okay to ban elections. So that does make it very scary. We're dealing with a government, our current government in the UK, that thinks it's okay to ban people, not for inciting violence, not for any kind of incitement of violence, but for having the wrong political views, from attending a march in the UK on the Sunday. You know, so you're not dealing with normal people. You are dealing with people that don't believe in democracy. We are being run by a communist government at the moment that wants to be a dictatorship. So they don't care if their policies are unpopular, because the people are stupid, right?
Yeah.
Yep. You know what isn't stupid? What isn't stupid is planning for your retirement and your financial
that was
future
a good one.
by investing in precious metals. That's why we are so happy that the sponsor of this program, the Climate Realism Show, is Advisor Metals. You know, if you listen to a lot of conservative shows, you hear tons of pitches for buying gold and silver and other precious metals. And there are a ton of companies out there that want to do that for you. But we want to tell you why you should support and trust our sponsor, Advisor Metals. And that's because of the man who runs the company, who we know personally, Ira Bershatsky. Ira is the managing member of Advisor Metals, and he's not going to do any of those high pressure tactics or deceptive marketing ploys that you get from a lot in big gold on those other programs. Ira also does not deal in so-called rare coins. When you invest in gold and other precious metals from Advisor Metals, you're dealing in quality bullion, and that is so much better when it comes time to liquidate, if you choose, this valuable physical asset. And when you buy from Advisor Metals, you will have your investment sent discreetly to your very home. And I must point out that Ira is advertising on our program because he is an America First patriot, and also, I'm sure, loves the freedom fighters in the United Kingdom as well. He does not donate to leftist parties. He refuses to work with the proxies of the Chinese Communist Party, and he, like us, abhor the machinations and schemes of the World Economic Forum and other global conspiracists. We are proud to have him as a sponsor for those reasons and many more. So if you want to diversify your investment portfolio, or if you want to back up your IRA with real physical bullion of precious metals, please go to climaterealismshow.com/metals. You can leave your information there, and Ira will make the process very, very easy for you. Again, climaterealismshow.com/metals, and be sure to tell them who sent you, because that helps us and this program while you're helping your financial future. All right. That was a top 5 segue for me, I think. It happened real quick.
It was good.
Very happy for it. Yes. All right. So that means after the ad read, it is time for Q&A. Take it away, Linnea.
Andy was hoping that he'd be able to cut me off with that drop, but I waited. I was patient. All right.
I'm the one who did it. I was being kind to you this week.
Oh, you were being kind to me. Okay, sure. All right. So our first question here is from our longtime viewer, Chris, who says, can't we just identify as women, call the problem fixed, and get back to our rare meat and 4-wheel drives?
That's very funny.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I think so.
It won't work for me. I refuse to identify as a woman or as a them they. The them they, because that's a plural pronoun. I'm sorry. I use proper English.
But Sterling, you don't even have to do anything to be qualified as transition now these days. You don't even have to wear a wig.
Well, now the wig,
you don't even need to shave.
The wig might be the one beneficial aspect of me identifying as, I'm follically challenged, so that might be okay.
All right. So Ed Reed wants to know if the limit on meat includes frankenmeat.
Yeah, I thought that.
I imagine not.
Yeah, probably not.
All right. KN4GDX516 says, how many superlatives are we going to see ahead of the super El Nino?
Well, they're already starting in the media. They're already happening, words like major and supercharged super El Nino and unprecedented. All of these different descriptions are being applied to it now because they're projecting this big El Nino. Then I've even seen things where it's going to self-destruct, it's going to get so big, it's going to self-destruct itself, and that'll be even worse. It's just nuts the way they're going out after this. And the folks who, are climate proponents, they're rubbing their hands together because, oh boy, the temperature's going to go up. And we're right. It's just, it's hilarious to watch.
Isn't calling it a super El Nino this first superlative right off the bat? There's El Nino, but this is a super El Nino. It's like a big emblazoned S on its chest. Super El Nino.
How about supercalifragilisticexpialidocious?
Hey, that was good. That was good.
Yeah, I like that one. Excellent. All right. You can write that in our climate realism articles going forward, Anthony. I'm not going to try to spell it. All right. David says, what's the reason that the Green Party gained, do you think, Lois?
Well, they took votes off. They took away the extreme left element, or some of the extreme left voters from the Labour Party, basically. And there was also lots of. They had a huge amount of Muslim votes. They had a very, very, very clear anti-Israel, in fact, anti-Semitic, pro-Gaza message. They campaigned in Urdu. They did lots of materials in Urdu. They had lots of postal voting. So you have one guy who's obviously, is in charge of the whole household. And so you might have 25 votes, which he'll do, postal votes. But also, this is really embarrassing for us now. Well, you're a lot younger than me, but young women are, well, unfortunately, a bit thick. And well, seemingly, I wasn't, I hope, but
I'm not going to disagree.
20 to 30, I think it's it's 20 to 30 or 25. That sort of 20 to 25 chunk with young women supporting Zach Polanski. and the Greens was huge. I mean, we've got a weird thing now, and I'm sure it's possibly the same in the States, where young men are going very much to the right and young women are going further and further to the left. That's what's happening in the UK. So, yeah, the Greens did okay, but it was on an anti-Semitic, pro-Gaza, anti-capitalism, again, nutty, far left stuff. And they're an Islamist party, which is bizarre because it's run by a Jewish guy. But I've never known a Jewish guy that's so loathed by every other Jew that I've ever met in my entire circle. I've got lots of Jewish friends because I run the Reform of Israel and the Reformed Jewish Alliance, and even though I'm not Jewish, and they loathe him. In fact, one of my friends went so far as to say that Zach Palisades would have been one of the the capos in the camps, that he would have been one of the Jews who sent the other, who grassed up and controlled the other Jews. I mean, that's quite a strong thing to say about someone, but yeah. So anyway, yeah, there you go.
I see a YouTube warning in the future.
Yes. So basically, the Green Party just picked up a lot of stuff that Labor wasn't able to maintain because Labor has been kind of copying and trying to moderate somewhat. Is that kind of the...
Yeah, somewhat. They've been trying to moderate somewhat, not very much, but
yeah.
But when you've got someone like Zach Palisades who's saying that there should be no privately owned homes, that telling young people that young people are obsessed with fairness, and his whole argument has been insane policies, but based on the concept of fairness, collectivism, but really extreme version of it. And very, very, very anti-Semitic rhetoric, really anti-Semitic, even so far as the Greens got in trouble because they sent people out to knock on doors in Brighton to find out who supported Israeli businesses. Well, they're not asking that, are they? They're sussing out where the Jews live and also who supports them. That's what that question meant. They actually did a spreadsheet of Jewish households and Jewish supporting households, so that they could target them, basically.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right. We also have... Let's see. Oh, Tech wants to know, has anyone asked Lois to run or stand for office?
Well, I was the leader of the UK Independence Party for 30 days, but the least said about that, the better, to be honest. I have been asked, but I know, as crazy as this sounds, I've got more influence to the side of certain people than I have if I was in office. But thank you anyway. Yes, I was the leader of a political party for a whole 30 days. Yeah, so I let down my gender. Sorry, girls. I was ill, though. Actually, that sounds even more girly, doesn't it? Yeah, I'll shut up now.
Here's a question from Lychee over on Rumble, who says, I heard there are laws in the EU against posting climate misinformation. Is that true?
Well, yes and no. I mean, unfortunately, we're not in the EU anymore. But yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily, you're not necessarily arrested for it, but they will, the algorithm will be such that your post will be subdued, or what's the word? I can't remember what the word is, but pushed down. Yeah, and also there's certain. So the law was changed under Tony Blair, where by Ofcom in terms of talking about the climate on television. Whereas beforehand, if you had somebody that was saying climate change was real, you had to counterbalance that by law. The Ofcom regulation said you had to have somebody on the different side of the argument. Blair removed that. He said the science is settled, and so it was said as fact that the climate is changing because of CO2 and because of man-made. So whilst I'm not, I know for a fact that in this country you wouldn't be arrested because I would have spent the last 4 years in prison, but there are ways of them suppressing it for definite. I'm not sure about the rest, about the EU and all the countries in the EU though.
All right, awesome. Let's see. M. Johansson says, can the UK primary election somehow be accelerated?
Do you want me to answer this again? I feel like I haven't shut up.
Yeah.
No, go.
Okay.
Go,
Happy
go,
for me
that's why
to
you're
answer
here.
all these.
Yeah, the
Okay,
elections, can they be quicker?
Okay, that's fine. Yes, of course. If a prime minister can call an election whenever he wants, whether they want to at the moment or not is another point entirely. But Nigel Farage has said on many occasions that do not be surprised if there's a much earlier election than we think. And we are actually preparing for May 27, even though it could be as late as 29. I don't think it will be. I think that they'll go early. I think they might even go early to try and catch us out. So it's because they think that we're not ready, but we will be ready. We will be ready.
And what are the people doing to survive until then, says Jay Wester.
They're watching me on the Climate Realism Show. No, we're very, very, very fortunate actually to have quite a thriving right of centre social YouTubers, and we've got GB News, we've got Talk TV. So and because the TV channels, for example, the BBC, have been criticised so much, and people are basically just switching off. Record numbers do not pay their license fee now. They are desperately trying, and I use the word trying, to be balanced at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, there's lots of media outlets for people to vent their frustration now, whether that's online or on traditional television.
Can I interrupt for a moment? I know it's question and answer period, but we started out at the very start of the show talking about, or maybe it was prior to the show, talking about how the police had stormed a television station. The owner of and you were part of the programming. Can we talk about that a bit?
Yeah, all my friends are going, oh God, it's because you were on, Lois. Suddenly they shut down the TV station. Even my nan said to me, "What did you say? Did you say something wrong?" I said, "Nanny, this is not to do with me talking about climate alarmism. Like there's deeper things going on." But yeah, joking aside, the day that I was on, what they did was the police said there was a bomb scare, closed down the building, and they used that as an excuse to access the studios. I mean, the studios are really impressive, really, really impressive. And then that night, the owner Thomas of Republica is huge in Poland, absolutely huge. He was actually at our event, and he had to leave the Heartland Central Europe launch event. And he had to leave suddenly because he'd heard that they were going to try and arrest him. But he did post for some photos with me before he had to leave, which is quite good. But I posted them on my Twitter if anyone wants to see. But today I had a message from him to say that they'd gone into his home today. The police had raided his home address and had handcuffed his assistant, and with no warrant had gone through all of his personal files and gone into his study and unlocked drawers and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, pretty scary times. That I thought Poland was a democracy. I thought the EU was a democracy. Silly me, hey, silly me.
Yeah, that's terrifying. So if or when reform does become the primary government, would you consider a role then?
What, with all that scrutiny? Really?
Yeah.
If what is it you guys say? I serve at the pleasure of the president.
Yeah.
I'd serve at the pleasure of the prime minister. If he wanted me to have a role, I would do. I mean, I'd have to balance that with my work with you guys. So that would have to be something that I'd have to think about. I'm still of the opinion that I have more influence to the side rather than front facing. But as I say, I am the executive director of the RFI. So I do have a role at the moment, but to the side. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. I think I can get more done not having an official role. Doesn't that sound crazy? But that's true.
No, I understand.
Anyway, I serve at the pleasure of the Prime Minister. There you go. We'll see what he says.
All right. Redneck Screw Loose wants to know, when are you going to be on Trigonometry, which is another.
Well, I doubt
podcast
that they'll have me on because they're funded by the same people who fund Rupert Lowe, who has set up Restore and spends basically every single second of his waking life, from the moment he opens his eyes to the moment he shuts his eyes, slagging off Nigel. So I doubt they'll be having me on anytime soon. But if you want to have me on, guys, I'll come on. That's fine. I'll do it. But I'd be surprised if they wanted to have me on there. But yeah.
Alrighty. We have another one from Chris who says, and I believe he's talking about, I'm assuming pipelines in Europe, but he says, aren't the pipes from the oil fields running into disrepair? I don't know.
If you disincentivize the oil companies from investing in being able to get new licenses or investing generally in what they're doing, then why if they're taxed to high heaven for any profits that they make, why would they want to spend loads and loads of money on stuff like that? Having said that, I must be honest with you, I haven't heard this specific thing, so I'm not sure where he's seen that, but.
Okay, well maybe he'll clarify, but
okay.
Let's see. Searching through chat to find some more. We have this is a bit of
64.
This is a bit of a like rhetorical question, I think, but I'm gonna propose it to the panel anyway, and I'm gonna pitch it first to Anthony because I think he might have an entertaining answer to this one. But Pill and Clam says, who determines what is information and what is misinformation? Would it happen to be the climate cultists?
Oh, gosh, that's a real loaded question. I would say the simplest answer to this is the people that feel morally superior are the ones that determine whether it's information or misinformation, because that's always what they're doing. They're injecting their moral superiority arguments into anything related to, climate information, for example. Well, we're saving the planet, therefore you're wrong. It doesn't matter about your opinion. It doesn't matter that you have hard facts. No. We're morally superior, therefore you are pushing information that is misinformation.
I'll say it in a different way. I mean, the people who are defining what is information and misinformation are the censors in our society. And they are the people who are currently in political or cultural control. And they realize that their positions and their arguments cannot stand up to even the slightest bit of scrutiny. And so they label everything that challenges their position as misinformation. And we lived here in the United States not that long ago under a regime in which the Biden administration was conspiring with social media companies to silence anybody who was criticizing policies on the pandemic. And of course, this show and everything we talk about here for Climate Realism, making sure that stuff was shadow banned, if not outright suppressed and banned. And like our channel right here, right now on YouTube is still not monetized, which keeps its reach much smaller than it could be. And we're still working to get that fixed. But that's who defines that, the people that are in political and cultural control, because they cannot stand even a little bit of pushback on their position.
Yeah, I will point out that what's up with that, we were shadow banned before shadow banning was cool.
Well, I'll tell you something really funny. Right at the beginning, when I started doing all this pro-climate realism, anti-net zero stuff, before it became socially acceptable in the UK to be saying this stuff, my daughter said to me, right, you need an Instagram account, right? So I said, right, okay. So she set it up for me, put my name in and everything, right? And then I hadn't even posted, right? And it said, I'm sorry, Lois Perry, we're shutting your account. You have breached our community guidelines. And I thought, so my very existence, right, breached Instagram's community guidelines.
There you go.
So there you go.
We have pretty strong protections, supposedly, against censorship by the federal government written into our Constitution. It's considered a natural right that Congress may not abrogate. But I think the best thing, I think few people read this stuff anymore, but I think the best thing ever written on free speech was written by an English philosopher named John Stuart Mill in his book On Liberty. Now, I don't agree with everything John Stuart Mill stood for, but his writings on free speech, well worth reading, because it talks about the value of different, even sometimes pernicious points of view being out there. And that's what these guys don't get. You know, I could be wrong. I'm a climate skeptic, but I could be wrong about everything that I have come to believe based on data. You might one day prove sufficient to me to say, sorry, I was wrong. But you can't do that if we're not having an open debate and dialogue and you're presenting your side. We could be on the censorship side. We're not right now. They are. I don't believe in censorship of any of those ideas.
Absolutely. All righty. I have this is a nice comment from Gerard Marsh, who says, watching the Climate Realism Show definitely helps to give us hope for the future in the UK. Well, thank you very much, Gerard.
Yay.
I'm glad we're able to do that. All right. This is a
We
great
should start
question.
having Guinness on the show.
Yeah. A great question from David Maddox, who says, now that the IPCC's RCP 8.5 model scenarios are invalid, shouldn't all the studies that used it be retracted? What are the likelihoods of that, Anthony?
Oh man, there's thousands of them. There's thousands upon thousands of them out there that cited this thing, and plus that all the media articles. I mean, it would be the biggest mass retraction in history. And of course, they're not going to do it, because they've been basically sweeping this retraction, whatever you want to call it, of RCP 8.5. They've been sweeping it under the rug, basically not wanting to own up to it. They're just kind of quietly discarding it and saying, "Don't look over there. Look at these new shiny models we've got. They're showing a dim, grim future, but they're not as bad." It's bad. They're never going to get rid of it. It's going to keep going and going and going. It's going to be like a bad penny that keeps coming back.
Though the answer to your question is they should be rescinded. They should be withdrawn. They should say, we've now discovered, even though we have been writing about this for several years now, that RCP 8.5 was flawed. People have been saying it. The scientists have been saying it for 5 years, that it was flawed. It was based on bad assumptions about trajectories. But now it's like it now has the official stamp, the official imprimatur of it's bad. And so everything based upon that's bad should be withdrawn. Just like in the medical field, if something had been published 150 years ago about diseases being caused by an imbalance of humors in the body, sorry, any publication that was based on that should be jettisoned. You should say, gosh, that was just wrong. We were wrong. That doesn't count for anything.
And we have another question. We have a question here from Robin over on X.com, who says, where's Al Gore? The United Nations Climate Committee has issued 57 predictions since 1970, and all 57 never happened. Also known as the Professor Paul Ehrlich's famines by 1974 claims. So unfortunately, Robin, Al Gore is still at it. He's got new ones. So we're going to head into a day after tomorrow ice age because of the AMOC collapse now. So if anyone has any more to add to that.
Yeah, we covered that last week. Let me get one question here before we wrap up. And actually, it's so Lois, you were present. We haven't made a huge public announcement about this yet. There's gonna be more details on it next week. But you were in Poland on last week. So was the president of the Heartland Institute, James Taylor, for the launch of Heartland Central Europe. And the idea is to take. Well, it's not easy to find somebody as effective as you, but the goal is to find people as effective as you.
You everywhere.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, we haven't gotten the cloning technology yet, thank goodness. But
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about in the time we have left, a little bit about the launch of Heartland Central Europe and how it went at the launch party, and what you see. You're going to be working with them as well as we here in the United States moving forward.
Yeah, that's correct. It's going to be based in Poland, but it will cover all the Central European countries. And the reason I'm just looking at my phone is not because I'm being rude, but because I'm getting the correct pronunciation of the Lois, if you like, for Central Europe. His name is Mariusz Zagorski. That's right, Mariusz Zagorski. And he is a really lovely man, a very, 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 very canny operator. He works at the highest level of government, works for the president of Poland, who is a big Trump and Nigel Farage fan. He's on our side of the argument. And the idea is that they're going to be the Heartland Central Europe will be about pushing the cause of freedom in general. So the idea is that they never go back to communism, because it sounds like, oh, well, they would never go back to communism, would they? But when you hear about the things that are happening, television stations being stormed, people's houses, who've got the wrong views, being broken into by the police. For example, the member of the EU, the Polish Law Justice member of the EU, wasn't allowed to come to England because his views were wrong. It's a very real thing for the Poles and those countries in Central Europe that have lived under communism, that they never want to go back. And when Mariusz did his speech at the beginning, it was very, very moving. He talked about his time when he was a small boy before the Berlin Wall fell and the end of communism. And he said, I'm doing this because we must never go back and we must never rest on our laurels. And so they see the Heartland Central Europe as pushing the cause of freedom, capitalism, better relations with the US, better relations with the UK, and they see the net zero stuff as a horse of Troy to restrict freedom. So it was a brilliant event. As I say, the owner of Republica was actually at our event when he got the call saying that a warrant had been taken out for his arrest, and he had to leave pretty quickly. The great and the good were there. James did a brilliant speech. It was very moving because, as I say, it's very real to the Poles and to all those countries in Central Europe that lived under communism that they don't go back, and they see this new organisation, Heartland Central Europe, as being at the heartland of that. So yeah. I mean, freedom is not, unfortunately, freedom is not the natural state of man. Whether you're organized in governments or just, feral Hobbesian type of existence, it needs to be fought for. It needs to be supported. It needs to be sustained. It needs to be communicated. And the fact that the head of what they call the Fox News of Poland getting notice that the police are coming to his house in the middle of our own event is proof of that, if there ever was any. Well, no, they were going to arrest him personally, but then they couldn't find him. So they went to his house today and put his assistant in handcuffs. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah. So it's really important. So the Heartland Institute is expanding. We don't just do climate. We're a think tank, as I say at the top of the show. It's been around for 42 years. We're founded on the principles of freedom. It's not just climate. Climate is as Lois said, the Trojan horse through which collectivism and communism emerge. And if you want to support what we do, not just here in the United States, not just in the United Kingdom, but also now spreading into Europe, please go to heartland.org. There's a donate button at the top of the page. It's a tax-deductible donation. We can use your support to help spread freedom and to stop communism and collectivism everywhere. And we're very proud and so happy to have launched Heartland Central Europe last week, and we hope to expand even further. That'll do it for today's show. I want to thank the awesome and lovely Lois Perry for being our guest again today. We hope to keep having you on regularly. I know our audience really
I love
enjoys
it. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank Anthony Watts. Thanks Sterling Burnett. Thank you, Linnea Lucan, as well, all from the Heartland Institute. And thank you, our listeners and our viewers, especially those of you in our very lively chat. Always enjoy interacting with you. I want to thank our streaming partners, junkscience.com, CFAC, the CO2 Coalition, Climate Depot, What's Up With That, and Heartland UK Europe. Thank you very much, Andy. Fantastic job today with some technical issues going on. And we will talk to you again next week. Bye-bye.